America faces a possible rail strike in 2 weeks after largest union rejects labor deal. A bit off topic. The two unions are the Transportation Division of the Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, Transportation Union SMART-TD, which represents about 28,000 conductors, and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen BLET, which represents about 24,000 engineers. The engineers and conductors make up the two-person train crews. I thought engineers and conductors were the same thing. Today I learn they aren't. Just reminder, this is for a 3-year-old contract negotiation at this point. Next contract talks start next year. Lol. Give the railway workers better pay, more staff, and their goddamn sick leave. American rail companies face a rail strike. This is all self-inflicted. I support the rail workers. What kind of impact would this have for the average person in America if the strike starts? Good. Power to the worker. Is this a different union from the previous almost strike? Good. Americans should strike way more often. Musical notes. Solidarity forever. Musical notes. I understand a rail strike would have major effects across the country, but if it takes a few tough weeks for us to make these people's lives better, then I'm all for it. If the rail unions don't get what they want, I hope they do strike just to prove to the American people how much power the working class has. These might be private companies, but America is still a democracy, and ultimately we decide how we want this country to be ran from the bottom up. I hope they get their payday and work rules. So sick of companies getting away with decreasing the wages of workers through inflation. Should be illegal. I had a buddy who worked for a railway replacing ties with some big-ass machine. The stories he told me about how hard they worked these guys in the middle of nowhere was fucked up. They fired them and rehired them constantly to avoid having to pay any benefits. As far as I know, he worked for a contractor under the railroad, but still. I hope they get what they deserve. The rail companies need to be reminded that without employees they have nothing of value at all. Shutting down the railway costs the US $2 billion per day. I'm pretty sure they can give these guys an extra week of PTO and better health insurance. Bad as it would be for the economy, I won't blame them for striking. The way the rail companies treat them is medieval. Joe knows the choo-choo guy though. Ups and Teamster next summer. Hold my beer. Out of curiosity, how many of you are in a union, and how would you feel if your field became unionized next week? You're probably gonna see our politicians get into the bipartisan spirit real quick when they vote to fuck these workers and put them back to work. Burn it all down. Holidays be damned. I don't know why they didn't push before midterms from a strategic standpoint. I know they have to wait a bit due to certain laws and agreement, but I'm surprised they didn't start the process a month sooner to force the issue. Solidarity with the rail workers. If it means commerce slows down, so be it. Good. They deserve better. I just want to see some good old labor strike got an entire abusive industry down a few notches. Amtrak Joe needs to step in and fix this debacle. I am 100 for this and completely support it. The rail companies have screwed over their employees terribly. With that said, this strike will never happen. Congress would step in and force legislation to prevent it. Even if they did a wildcat strike, the rail companies would just fire everyone. They would literally let the economy sink before giving these workers what they are asking for. Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers back in the day. I have no doubts they would pull the same shit again. If corporate America won't kneel to our unions, we will force them to. If the price of goods goes up, we will just stop buying them. We're being price gouged everywhere because they know their time is coming to an end. Any other good news? Rolling eyes face, dizzy, first time I've read news in over a month and no news is good news. The average worker is MF. This means they get 104 days off for free weekends, plus PTO. These folks only want half of that, plus contract enforceable minimum staffing to allow them to be able to use that PTO, and reasonable scheduling so that the work-life balance stops scaring off recruits. Unionize against capital. Good old Uncle Joe brokered the deal and he still backfired. So much for him being a railroad guy. Guess he doesn't care about freight as much as Amtrak. Fucking greed. This all could be avoided so easily. It's not like the rail is struggling, they've posted record profits like almost every other business. Didn't this just happen a few months ago? I swear the rail union just struck a deal earlier in the year. What makes this one different than the other one? Nationalize or LVTize the rail system. Anyone know of any discussions to turn this into a general strike? We all have gripes. Let Congress try to stop it, more key sectors will strike. Eugene Debs has entered the chat. Too bad they demolished that Las Vegas train station in the 70s, which would probably have made enough money from Southern California Salt Lake Phoenix alone to pay for anything. Do your job well enough, no one will even know you are doing it. Especially execs. Rail strike inflation amplifier. Tell Buffett to cough it up. Gonna be fun to see the contortions from the Blue McGraw crowd when their pro-union president and Congress try and force a dogshit, overtly hostile deal on these workers. I hope they wildcat strike. Solidarity forever. Part of me wish they'd just strike. Only way that we'll get their basic human working conditions. But then with knowledge of how the government handles strikes, that at least lose jobs, worst shot or bombed by this day and age, drones and survivors lose jobs.